Hello, Synthwavers. Happy Friday to everyone. Today I want to try something different. Actually, I wanted to stream this live on YouTube, but since I have never live streamed before, apparently I have to wait 24 hours to do it. But in any case, so I just still wanted to go ahead and record something that you would find useful today. So our topic is how to create chord progressions and what tools we can use to create chord progressions. The first thing that I want to mention is that there are no real synthwave chord progressions. What do I mean by this? Like, there's no combination of chords that someone would say, oh yeah, that's definitely synthwave, or no, that's definitely not synthwave. Any combination of major chords and minor chords will work. So you can work in any major key, any minor key. Now, depending on how you combine the chords, it will give your music a certain flavor. So if you predominantly use major chords, it'll tend to have a happier sound, brighter sound. And if you predominantly use only minor chords or mostly minor chords, then your music is going to have a bit of a sadder feel, right? And if you mix both major and minor chords, then it has I would say like a kind of a melancholy feel. But again, there's no real synthwave chord progression. So anything that applies to pop and rock and electronic dance music in general can apply to synthwave. The other thing is, I want to teach you a system and a few tools you can use to create chord progressions with confidence, knowing that they will always sound good. The worst thing that can happen for you as a producer is that you try to come up with something and you aren't sure if it sounds good. Yeah, definitely always trust your ears, as in anything related to music. But if anytime you want to start a track, you wonder about whether a chord progression sounds good or not, and you second guess yourself, right? And it takes you a long time to create a chord progression. That's not the place that I want you to be in. I want you to be a professional and really be able to come up with chord progressions with confidence and that always sound good no matter what, and in a couple of minutes. That's very important. I don't want you to spending 40 minutes coming up with a chord progression. And the last point is that I also want to inspire you to learn more about music theory. I like to say this a lot. You don't need to become Mozart to fully realize or take benefit from music theory in your music. With very basic and intermediate concepts, you will get a very long way. You will reap so many benefits that you have no idea. And as a synthwave black belt producer, you need to possess advanced music theory skills. So, with that out of the way, for today, I'm going to be using, let me change my scene here. I'm going to be using a few tools to help you put together chord progressions. What you see here on screen are what's called chord leading charts. What these charts will help you do is find out what chord sounds good after a particular chord. So if you string a few chords together using these chord leading charts, then by definition, your chord progressions are going to sound good. Great. Let's start here on the left-hand side with this chord leading chart 1 major. Now let me explain it very quickly. On this left column, we see chords, and these are all Roman numerals, by the way. If you don't know what Roman numerals are, go ahead and look it up. Please buy yourself a basic music theory book. I can recommend a few. So the one chord, or whatever chord we have on the left-hand side, can be followed by any of the chords on the right side of the chart. So the one chord in any major key can be followed by any other chord. You can jump to any other chord you want. The 6th chord can jump or can be followed by any of these chords, the 4th chord by any of these, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Here I have all the chords in the C major key from left to right, and I've already assigned the Roman numerals, so it's easier for us to create chord progressions and not have to remember what each Roman numeral represents. So this is the 1 chord, the 2 chord, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7 chord. Great. Oh, and before I begin, the 7 chord, or the diminished chord in both the major and minor keys, is a special chord. For now, stay away from the diminished chord in both major and minor keys. It needs special treatment. You need to really know what you're doing before you can use it. You can't stay on a diminished chord like for an entire bar, and let alone 2. Typically, it's used as a passing chord that will last for 1 beat or 2 beats unless you really know what you're doing. So again, none of the chord progressions and none of the that we'll be creating today are going to include diminished chords, so you can act as if they don't exist at all. Great. So let's put together a very simple chord progression using these charts. So let's start on the 1. Then what chord can I follow the 1 with? According to this chart, I could go to any other chord I want. Great. Let's then go to the 4 chord. Then what chords can I follow the 4 chord with? And I look it up here. Here's my 4 chord. And I could go to the 1, to the 5, 6, or 3. Just to spice things up a little bit, let's go to the 3 chord. And the 3 chord, what can I follow it with? Okay, it says I could go to the 6, 1, the 4, or the 2. Let's go with the 6 chord. Great. So in C major, this would be C major, F major, E minor, and A minor. And it sounds like this. C, F, E minor, A minor. Again, C, F, E minor, A minor. Back to C. It sounds really good right out of the gate. Nothing wrong with that chord progression because we created it using a chord leading chart. Now, let's try another example. I'm still going to start with the 1 chord. And according to this chart, we could go to any other chord. All right, so let's pick the 2 chord. After the 2, where could we go? 5, 4, or 3? Let's go to 5. After 5, we could go to the 1, the 4, or the 6. Let's go to the 4. And in C major, this would be C, D minor, G major, and A minor. Let's take a listen. C major, D minor, G major, A minor. Again, C, D minor, G major, A minor. It sounds good right out of the gate. Again, maybe there were some changes there, like from C to D minor, then to G, where you could say, you know what, maybe let's, I didn't like how G sounds. Not that there's anything wrong with it from a musical perspective. It's just that change, you'd like something different. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna delete that. Let's go back to the 2 chord, and we could go to the 4 or to the 3. Let's go to the 4. And from the 4, could I go to the 6? According to this chart, yeah, we can. If we had chosen something different by changing this chord, probably we would have had to change this. But in any case, the 4 chord can be followed by the 6 chord, so we're still good. This is F major. Let's take a a listen to this new progression. C, D minor, F major, A minor. Again, C, D minor, F major, A minor. It sounds cool, sounds very nice. And again, simple. In 30 seconds or 1 minute, we came up with this progression. Let's try something else. Let's say, still with the theme of starting with the 1, and by the way, we don't necessarily always have to start with the 1. We could start with any other chord. Now let's say the caveat or the danger is that depending on what chord you start with or what chord you give more emphasis to on your chord progression, then it may tend to sound major, minor, or ambiguous, right? In any case, let's keep with starting on the 1 chord, and this time I'm gonna play the 1 chord twice. Okay, so after the 1 chord, where could we go that we haven't gone before? Let's go to the 6th chord. And after the 6, we could go to the 4, 5, 1, or 2. In this case, let's go to the 5. So in C major, this would be C, C, A minor, and G. It sounds like this. C, C, A minor, and G. Back, C, A minor, and G. It sounds very good, very nice. Again, no pain, no guessing. It just works right out of the gate. The other thing that I want to point out, or the reason I have this other chart here, is that you can look up these chord leading charts online, and there are many different versions. Music theorists argue about what chords follow other chords all day long, and they have done this for years. So there's not one single version of the truth. Like there's no generally accepted, fully exclusive chord leading chart where everyone says, yeah, that's the only one. If you look it up, go to Google, look up chord leading charts, you'll find many different versions. And that's what I wanted to show you here. For example, this chord leading chart, this second version, it's generally the same, like 80 to 90%, but there are some tiny differences. Let's see if we can spot them. For example, this chart says that after the 2 chord, you can go with the 4, 5, or the 7 diminished chord. But this chart says you can go to the 5, 4, or 3. So the only difference, 5, 4, 5, 4, this one says you can also go to the 3, and this one says you can also go to the B diminished. So none of them is wrong. They're both right. You just try things out and see how you like them. So let's do a chord progression using this second chord leading chart. And let's try to do something different. I'm going to start with the 1. Then I'm going to go to... Okay, I'm going to go with the 3, just so I go to a different place than if I had used the chart 1 version. So this one says I can go to the 2. This one also says that. Let me see. Let's choose something else. 2, 4, 6. This one says 6, 1, 4, 2. Okay, let's go back to... actually, this was a bad example. Let's see. 4, 1, 5, 6, 3. 1, 3, 5. Yeah, but I don't want to use that. 6. 1, 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. These are the same. Apparently this one was kind of a bad example. Doesn't matter, we'll plow through. Okay, so this one, well, we're not going to do anything different in any case. This one says the 5 can only go to the 1. This one says the 5 can go to the 1, 4, and the 6. Let's go to the 5, and we'll go back to the 1 according to this chart. And then from the 1, we could go to any other chord that we wanted, right? But let's do this. Let's go to a chord that can be followed by the 1. So just looking at this, it says that the 5 chord can be followed by the 1. Or actually, the 1 would follow the 5 chord. The same with the 6 and with the 7 dim. So let's choose the 6 chord. So in the case of G major, this would be C major, G major, C major, and A minor. Let's take a listen. C, G, C major again, A minor, C major, G major, C major, A minor. Great. Now let's take a look at the minor version of the chart over here, and we're going to do the same thing. So this chart, again, it tells us on the left-hand side the starting chord or the jump-off point, and on the right-hand column, we will see what chords we can follow our jumping-off point. So let's start with something easy. Let's start with the 1 chord. Then we can follow it with any of these chords, with the 6, 7, 3, or the 4. Let's go to the 7 chord. The 7 chord, we can follow it with the 3, 4, or with the 1. Let's go with the 3. And the 3 chord can be followed with any other chord out there. Okay, so let's pick, just to give our progression a strong flavor, let's pick again the 1. So in A minor, this would be A minor, G major, C major, and A minor. It sounds like this. Okay, A minor, G major, C major, back to A minor. Again, A minor, G major, C major, A minor. Sounds very good. It has a very strong minor feel, exactly what we needed for our track. All right, let's start over. Again, let's do the 1. After the 1, we could go to the 4, 7, 3, or the 4 minor. Let's go with the 4. After the 4, we could go to 7, 6, or 5. Let's choose the 6. And after the 6, let's go to the 5. In A minor, this would be A minor, D minor, this is F major, and E minor. It sounds like this. A minor, D minor, F major, E minor. Again, A minor, D minor, F major, and E minor. Sounds good. A strong minor feel. And let's see what else. Okay, so that's that for the minor version of the chord leading charts. So I hope you guys are learning a lot, and you can see how easy it is to come up with chord progressions and put them together when you use tools like this. The other thing that I wanted to mention is a concept that I call the chord archetypes. And if you think of putting together a chord progression and having it have a strong major or minor feel, how do you accomplish that? There are certain ways or certain strategies you can use to do that. And one that I came up with is what I call the archetypes. And the gist of it is that by doubling the tonic chord in your progression, for example, if we were in the key of C major, doubling up on the C major chord, and if we were in A minor, doubling up on the A minor chord, or giving these chords more airtime, then the progression in and of itself will have a strong pull towards that tonic. Think of this. Whenever in a chord progression we emphasize or give more airtime to a chord, our ears will tend to feel or hear that chord as home base, as the primary chord, whether it's major or minor, it doesn't matter. The other thing is that there are a few points in a progression where if you place chords there or emphasize the chords there, you can also trick the ear in feeling that as the most important chord in the progression. So if you start a progression with a certain chord, our ears will tend to think that's the most important chord. Or our ears also tend to feel like the last chord that you played as the most important. So we're gonna take advantage of those two concepts, giving more airtime to a chord and giving it, depending on where we place it at the beginning or the end, we're going to emphasize a pull towards the tonic. So for example, the three archetypes that I came up with, I call them the front end archetype. And what this means is that we're going to play the tonic chord for one bar, the tonic chord for the second bar, or repeat that tonic chord, and then we can go to whatever other chords we want. And it's a front end because we're front loading or putting the tonic chord at the front of our progression. Then we have the back end strategy, which is just this backwards. You start with whatever chord you want, you go to whatever other chord you want. They could be the same, they could be different, it doesn't matter. But the last two chords in the progression are the tonic chord. And then we have what I call the bookend strategy. And you're going to place the tonic chord at the beginning and at the end of your chord progression. So by starting and by ending with that, with a tonic chord, our ears are going to feel like that's the home base or the most important chord in the progression. So let's do some examples. Let's use the front end, and we've already used this when we were creating the major chord progressions. So just to keep things simple, going back to C major, let's do C, C, and we could go to any other two chords that we wanted. So I'm gonna go with A minor and G, and it sounds like this: C, C, A minor, G, back to C. It has a very strong pull, A minor, G, towards C. It feels like home base. Another example. Let's do this, well, this time the same front end, but in A minor. So we're gonna do A minor, and let's do G major and F major. It sounds like this: A minor, G major. Oops, I botched it there again. A minor, G major, F major. Cool. A minor, G major, F major. Back to A minor. When we go back to A minor, it does feel like home. And that's exactly why this strategy of using the archetypes is so good. Now let's do an example using the back end. So let's say we're gonna do F, G, A minor, and A minor, which is the reverse of what we just did. It sounds like this: F, G, A minor, A minor, F major, G, A minor. Sounds very cool, very nice. And another example, this time a bookend. And let's still use A minor. I'm feeling the minor vibe today. So let's do A minor. And here in the middle, let's do, we could do G and F just to not to overcomplicate things. It would sound like this. A minor, G major, F major, A minor. Back again to A minor, G, F major, A minor. It definitely sounds in A minor or in a minor key because again we're starting and ending the progression on the tonic and we're giving the tonic more airtime than the other chords. So that's what I wanted to cover today. I hope that you guys have found this very helpful. And again, these tools are super useful and make the best use of them as you can. And let me know if you have any questions or comments. Take care.